In engineering physics, we are discussing quantum mechanics. In the last session, we tried to understand how to arrive at Schrodinger's wave equations to get the wave function with respect to one dimensional as well as three dimensional, time dependent and time dependent independent approaches. So, in continuation to that, if we want to further understand how to locate a particle, we have an experimental process named as finding a particle in a one-dimensional potential box. For that, we are considering a particle of mass m moving back and forth between the walls of a one-dimensional box separated by a distance a. That means this is a one-dimensional potential box separated by a distance a. These walls are very hard. Therefore, during collisions, there is no possibility for the particle to penetrate through. That's why they are hard balls. So, we are assuming that a particle of mass m is moving back and forth between the walls of this one-dimensional potential box separated by a distance a. Let this particle be traveling only along the x-axis and it is confined between x equal to 0 and x equal to a. Between those limits it is traveling, and these walls are nothing but two infinitely hard walls, so that the particle has no chance of penetrating through that. That means when we are considering a particle of mass m moving back and forth between the hard walls of a one-dimensional potential box separated by a distance, and assuming that the particle is traveling along only x direction and the particle motion is confined between x equal to 0 and x equal to a by these two infinitely hard walls, such that the particle has no chance of penetrating through them. That means it does not lose energy when it collides with the walls, and therefore its total energy remains constant. This box can be represented by a potential box of width a with potential walls of infinite height at x equal to 0 and x equal to a. So this can be graphically represented like this. These are potentially hard walls. Hard walls are the potential box of infinite height. Infinite two walls are there. One is at x equal to 0, the other is equal to x equal to a. So that the potential energy, whatever we represent as V of the particles, is infinitely high on both sides of the box. And inside we assume it as uniform. Again I am recapping. This box, what we are considering, this can be represented by a potential box of width a with potential walls of infinite height at x equal to a 0 and x equal to a, so that the potential energy V of the particle is infinitely high on both sides of the box. So these walls are nothing but these two. So inside it is assumed the potential to be uniform. So let us assume, naturally the moment it is outside it is very high, inside it is uniform. Let us assume that the potential is 0 inside the box. What is meant by assuming potential to be 0 inside the box? Mathematically we can represent as something like this. Between x equal to 0, this is the range. Within the limits of 0 and a, potential is 0. That means if you see the diagram, here potential is 0. Between x equal to 0 and x equal to a, potential is 0. Outside these two walls, that is at x less than or equal to 0 and x greater than or equal to a, this value is very high, which is infinity. So that is what we have mathematically represented here like this. V of x equal to 0 for the limits 0 less than x less than a, that is x equal to 0 and x equal to a between. And whereas the potential is found to be infinity at less than or equal to 0 and greater than or equal to 0, a. This is what we need to understand. Okay? Then in that situation, we can write the wave function of the particle within the region of 0 and a. We can represent the potential function, wave function. Psi of x can be represented when v equal to 0. So when inside the box, when the potential is 0, the wave function psi of x within this region, using Schrodinger wave equation, it can be represented like this. Normally it is E minus V into psi equal to 0, but V is 0. Therefore, the normal equation of Schrodinger describing the wave function becomes automatically d square psi by dx square plus 2m by h cut square into E psi equal to 0. Now what is the normal equation? D square psi by dx square plus 2m by h cut square into E minus V into psi equal to 0. But here V is found to be 0. So therefore V psi will go. What is left over? We are left with d square psi by dx square plus 2m by h cut square into E psi equal to 0. Okay? Now we can substitute this equation for a variable. We can take a constant. How we can take this constant? By taking this 2m e into h cut square, you can take it as a k square. A variable k is being taken. So if you expand this, the second term of the left hand side equation, 2m into e by h cut square, if you take k square, so now automatically you can write as k d square psi by dx square is plus k square psi is equal to 0. This is how you can get a quadratic equation. D square psi by dx square plus k square psi equal to 0. This is how we can write this. For this quadratic equation, we can find some solutions in terms of wave function. So for this equation, d square psi by dx square plus k square psi equal to 0, we can find a solution for this equation with the help of some arbitrary constants, like you can assume like this. So you can assume a solution for this equation as psi of x equal to a sin kx plus b cos kx. Here a and b are arbitrary constants. So this for this wave function is a possible solution for this quadratic equation. Based on this solution, we shall further go ahead. So for the proposed solution, we will apply the boundary conditions for this. At x equal to 0, what will happen? Similarly, at x equal to a, what will happen? By applying those boundary conditions for this solution, interesting results can come. So therefore, for the quadratic equation of the Schrodinger wave equation we got for these conditions, assuming that the solution, possible solution like this in this format where a and b are arbitrary constants, let us apply boundary conditions of x equal to 0 and x equal to a, because that is the width of the potential box we have taken. What will happen? Let us see. For this solution, when we try to apply the first boundary condition, we have two boundary conditions here. One is x equal to 0, another is x equal to a. Suppose if you apply the first boundary condition x equal to 0, then automatically psi of x equal to 0. Then we get b equal to 0. If you apply the second boundary condition, that is x equal to a, psi of x will become psi of a. Is it not? So let us apply two boundary conditions of x equal, this is the limit, na? X equal to 0 is one boundary condition, x equal to a is another boundary condition. So applying these two boundary conditions one after the other on the proposed solution for this quadratic equation, first one is x equal to 0 means psi of x equal to 0, that means b equal to 0, because the entire thing will go. Similarly, when you apply x equal to a, then psi of x equal to psi of a. So let us look at both the boundary conditions. This is the first boundary condition. We are applying first boundary condition for what equation? For the solution. Psi of x equal to a sin chi x plus b cos kx. When you apply the first boundary condition, x equal to 0, psi of x will become 0, then automatically the constant b also becomes 0. So when you apply the second condition, second boundary condition, that is x equal to a. So when you apply the second boundary condition x equal to a, then the solution psi of x equal to a sin kx plus b cos kx, how it will change? Psi of x will become psi of a equal to 0. This is how we get the result. Psi of a equal to 0 means apply the boundary condition. With this, got the value of psi of a. So how do you get psi of a? Therefore, psi of a will naturally become, when b equal to 0, a sin k. A cos kx plus b, a sin kx plus b cos kx. Now b is 0. Therefore, it is only psi of x will become a sin kx. So for x, if you apply a, then psi of a will become a sin ka. Therefore, a sin ka is equal to 0. Psi of a 0 means a sin ka equal to 0. So at the second boundary condition, after simplification, because the b equal to 0 in the first boundary condition, and if you apply the secondary boundary condition also for psi of x equal to a sin kx plus b cos kx, b will be 0 anyway, then psi of a will become a sin ka. Now psi of a equal to 0 means what? A sin ka is equal to 0. A sin ka will be 0 only when either a will be 0 or sin k is 0. Then only a sin ka can be 0. Is it not? But a cannot be 0, because if a becomes 0, which is an amplitude, there is no solution at all. So therefore a, because there will be no solution if a is 0, a cannot be 0. So only thing that can be 0 is sin ka equal to 0. Therefore applying that, we will get sin ka is equal to 0. Then when sin of ka equal to 0, then ka should be what? Ka should be pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, etc. Then only sin of that can be 0. So if you say sin ka is equal to 0, then ka can be simply 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, like that. So we can say n pi. So only when ka is equal to n pi, where n equal to 1, 2, 3, sin ka can be 0. Now why? You have to get it down. Why n equal to not 0 here? N cannot be 0, because if n is equal to 0, k is also 0. When k is 0, energy E equal to 0. Therefore psi of x equal to 0. That means everywhere in the box psi of x will be 0. That means particle will have a 0 energy. Particle with 0 energy cannot be present inside the box. That means particle in the box cannot have 0 energy. Therefore n cannot be 0. I am again repeating. You got this equation. Applying the second boundary condition, psi of a equal to a sin ka. How you got? The original solution for the probability equation we have taken is psi of x equal to a sin kx plus b cos kx. By applying the first boundary condition, already b got 0. Therefore psi of a equal to a sin kx. For x equal to a, the function will be psi of x. Then psi of a equal to 0 will be the function. So psi of a means a sin ka. Psi of a 0 means a sin ka equal to 0. A sin ka can be 0 when in this product either a equal to 0 or sin ka equal to 0. Then only a sin ka can be 0. But because there will be no solution if a equal to 0, a cannot be 0. Therefore, for psi of a to be 0, only sin of ka can only be 0. Sin of ka can be 0 only when ka is equal to pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, etc. That means ka can be n pi. Here important point I told you to remember is n cannot be 0 here. I have not written n is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3. N equal to 1, 2, 3 only. Why? If n equal to 0, then k will be 0. When k is 0, E is 0. When k and E are 0, therefore psi of x equal to 0 everywhere in the box. 0 means particle with 0 energy is present. That is what it is saying. But the particle with 0 energy cannot be present in the box. That means a particle in the box cannot have 0 energy. This is what is to be kept in mind. And that is what exactly I have explained here. If this is to be 0, either of them have to be 0. A cannot be 0, only Ka can, sin of Ka can be 0. So naturally psi of Ka can be 0 only when Ka equal to n pi, where n equal to 1, 2, 3. Why not 0? I've explained and I've written here. N cannot be 0 because for n equal to 0, K will become 0, E will become 0, therefore psi of x will be 0 everywhere in the box. That means particle with 0 energy cannot present in the box. Understood? So therefore, particle exists within the region x equal to 0 and x equal to a. So between the limits of the region x equal to 0 and x equal to a, the wave functions for the motion of a particle can be represented as psi of x, psi n of x into a sin kx. Therefore, generally you can say nothing but for x, it will automatically, you can write it as psi n is equal to a sin n pi x by a. This is the wave function for the motion of a particle in the region x equal to 0 and x equal to a. From this equation, we can calculate the energy values which are known as eigenvalues of energy. So let us understand eigenvalues of energy. So to measure the eigenvalues of energy, recollect the basic equation we arrived earlier. D square psi by dx square equal to 2m by h cut square into E psi. In this, we assumed 2me by h cut square as k square. K square is a variable taken as a constant. K square equal to 2me by h cut square. That is the equation we have taken and proceeded further earlier. Now this equation will be taken as a basis to understand the eigenvalues of energy now. So therefore, recollecting that equation, k square equal to 2me by h cut square, we need to get the values of E. So how do you get the value of E? By cross multiplying, you will get the value of E. E will become what? K square h cut square divided by 2m. K square h cut square by 2m will be the value of E. Understood? Now, in this equation, E is equal to k square h cut square by 2m. Let us substitute the value of k. What is value of k? K is equal to n pi by a, na? K is equal to n pi by a. So, substituting the value of k equal to n pi by a in this equation, k square will become n square pi square by a square. So, this is what you need to remember. So, here k is equal to n pi by a, that value will substitute. When k equal to n pi by a, k square will become n square pi square by a square. So substituting the value of k square as n square pi square by a square in this equation, E equal to k square h cut square by 2m, then automatically it will become E is equal to h cut square by 2m will be as it is. Only thing is for k square you are substituting n square pi square by a square. Therefore, energy value E will become n square pi square by a square into h cut square by 2m. Okay. Now h cut is what? H cut is h upon 2 pi, na? H cut is nothing but h upon 2 pi. So substituting h cut is equal to h upon 2 pi here. Now let us modify this equation. Because h cut equal to h upon 2 pi, we can modify this equation. So this will become n square pi square by a square divided by, so you substitute h cut as h by 2 pi, h cut square means h square by 4 pi square. So here if it becomes h square by 4 pi square into 2m, that means h square by 8 pi square m. This is how it will become. So by substituting h cut equal to h upon 2 pi in this equation, this will become n square pi square by a square into h cut square means h square by 4 pi square into 2m. That means E will be n square pi square by a square into h square by 8 pi square m. Is it not? That means by substituting h cut equal to h upon 2 pi, E will become n square pi square by a square into h square by 8 pi square m, right? So now you can generalize this equation. Now you can strike off this pi square on both numerator and denominator. Then for the nth value, this is the general equation you can write. N square h square by 8a square, 8ma square, 8m into a square. Pi square gets cancelled. So this is the basic equation for the measurement of eigenvalue of energy. By substituting n equal to 1, 2, 3, etc., you can get different energy levels, is it not? So from this relation, what we can interpret, try to understand. So from this, suppose if you put n equal to 1, so then when n equal to 1, what will happen? Then n equal to 1 means E will become E1, 1 into h square by 8ma square, that is h square by 8ma square. H square by 8ma square. So therefore that will be nothing but En only, na? So you can cross multiply this. And then you can generalize and write E1 is equal to h square by ma square. So whenever you have h square by ma square, you can write E1. So you can write, therefore, this you can write h square by 8ma square. So in this, if you write this area, h square by 8ma square as E1, then En will become what? N square into E1 only, na? Getting the idea or not? In this equation, if you substitute n equal to 1, it will become E1 is equal to 1 square into h square by 8ma square, that is h square by 8ma square. So whenever you have h square by 8ma square, you can write as E1. Therefore in this expression, h square by ma square means h square by ma square. This area is nothing but E1. So therefore En will become what? N square into E1. What this idea? En is nothing but n square into E1. From this is what is known as 0 point energy of the system, lowest energy. So the lowest energy of the particle is obtained by putting n equal to 1. Therefore, E1 value you will get like this. This En is equal to n square by E1. This is what is known as 0 point energy of the system. Right? So for n equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., if you substitute, we'll start getting the discrete energies like E1, E2, E3, E4. Na? So let us see. N equal to 1, you got 8. H into 8ma square, very good. Suppose you put n equal to 2. So n equal to 2 means 2 square into this one, that is 4E1. Got it? This is crucial to understand. Again I am recapping. This equation you have understood. N square into h square by 8ma square. If you put n equal to 1, it becomes the lowest energy. So that will become 1 square into h square by 8ma square. That means E1 is equal to h square by 8ma square. Therefore, in this equation, if you have h square upon 8ma square, you can write as E1. So therefore, what En has become? En has become n square into h square by 8ma square means E1. Therefore, En we can write it as n square into E1. Understood? So this is the basis on which the rest is going to be derived for the different discrete energy levels. Suppose n equal to 1, you got h square by 8ma square. N equal to 2. N equal to 2 means you get E2. How to write it? N square E1, that is 2 square E1, that is 4E1. Similarly, n equal to 3, 3 square E1, that is 9E1. N equal to 4, 4 square E1, that is 16E1. Like that, you go on substituting the values, you will get different discrete energy levels based on n value. So you will get 4E1, 9E1, 16E1. Like that, if you take the spacing between the nth energy level and the next higher energy level, how it is increasing, you can get a formula like this. No need to worry about how it is what. This is how the spacing between the nth level energy and the next higher level energy increases by this. So these values of En, what we are talking about, these En values, these are known as eigenvalues of energy, and we can write the corresponding wave function psi n. Psi n are nothing but, psi of n are nothing but eigenfunction. Suppose n equal to 1, E1 will be the eigenvalue, psi 1 will be the function. For n equal to 2, E2 will be the eigenvalue of energy, and psi 2 is the eigenfunction. Like that. The integer value n is nothing but therefore the basic term, that is the principal quantum number. So n is the quantum number of the energy level of En. So this discrete energy level we can represent in the form of a diagram in a potential, one-dimensional potential box as. So this is how we can schematically represent. For n equal to 1, then automatically E1 is the energy level. Psi 1 is the function. When n equal to 2, E2 is the eigenvalue, psi 2 is the energy function. For n equal to 3, see the spacing will be increased accordingly. E3 is the eigenvalue of the energy, psi 3 is the eigenfunction, like that. So all these En values you are representing where n equal to 1 to 3, they are nothing but eigenvalues, and psi of the corresponding thing is nothing but the eigenfunction, where here n is the integer, which is the quantum number of the that En level energy. So this is what we have seen. So in this session, we try to understand the location of the particle in a one-dimensional box and how we can arrive at energy levels and the wave function. So eigenvalues and eigenfunctions we have seen. Based on that, we shall try to understand more deep into the deeper concept of eigenfunctions in the form of schematic diagrams in the next session.